Yeah, I'm gonna get hit up for this one. Yeah, man. Take them back, Heath. Take them back, Heath. They don't know nothing about that. I'm gonna get hit up anyway. Might as well let it play. His lips ain't dry no more. You want my money and you think I'm sexy. Yeah. Yeah, hey man, they gonna hit me up anyway, but I wanted to do that there because that's when I started really like coming of age and having a good memory, you did. Having a real good memory, man. Welcome back to the Trillcast. It's your player partner, Hezeleo. And tonight, man, we're gonna get into something near and dear my heart and a whole lot of others. I'm just on my PA state of mind. Yeah, like and share and subscribe, and you know what I'm saying? Feel free to comment in the chat, do whatever you do, say whatever you say, share the video. It don't make me no never mind. I don't care what you do. Cause we going. Yeah, I used to be able to Kahoot. But yeah, you want to thumb around? So, nah, okay. There it is. I like that. Yeah, man. So it's near and dear to my heart to talk about my hometown, my city, but talk about it in a more pure form. When it was more wholesome, when it was less danger. When the lights out, it's less dangerous. Here we are now. Entertainer. Yeah. Nigga. Yeah, so basically we're talking about a more humble time in Port Arthur. And what we're talking about tonight, we're talking about basically before the crack epidemic hit. You did, you like rock say, you know what I'm saying? Before it hit, you did. So yeah, man, I want to go back down through there and speak about Port Arthur at a more simpler time, with a more harmonious time. You know what I'm talking about? A more beautiful time in the PA streets. Before I started to develop the PA state of mind. Oh yeah, I had to develop it at a certain age. This gonna be before I started to develop it. So I'm gonna take you back to the 70s. Yeah, I like that. Let's go. I was born in the 70s, mid 70s. To parents, I had a mama who was beautiful and foxy. She was tall, beautiful, and foxy. And she was slick with the tongue. She could talk some shit, boy. Oh yeah, she could talk some shit. And she was brave than a mother. I got to say, she was brave than anything I could ever see. And my pops, he was a tall, you know what I mean, in shape fella, dressed very nice. He held himself together really well. But I learned early on that they were like oil and water. They didn't make it. They separated very early. And it may have been due to the findings that my pops was suffering from PTSD. But I ain't suffering no more when I see that 499 from Jesus Trevino. Oh no, we ain't suffering from no PTSD right now. We see that 499 soup and all the suffering is better. But yeah, so Pops was suffering from a little PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome. He had went over to Vietnam. And it also was said he spent a little time in the Army Brigade, or whatever they call it when you locked up in the jailhouse on the Army base. But then it also said, it was so said that he spent a little time in the Army mental hospital. So maybe they had a little something to do with it, but that don't mean no never mind. They didn't make it. So during that time, my pops lived on the west side of Port Arthur in Lewis Manor Apartments, may be known to some as one of the projects. I lived, as I could remember, on Houston Avenue by a grocery store called Blackie's. I was just a little child, and we wound up moving to 6th Street near another store, but it wasn't a grocery store. It was a liquor store. Yeah, man. Come on, man. It was a liquor store. It was right around the corner from the Highs on 7th Street. It was called Rock's Liquor Store. But that didn't mean that the neighborhood was infested with crime and all sorts of things. The neighborhood was pretty chill. It wasn't called a hood at that time. It was a neighborhood. And there was families of all financial economic levels. There was the poor and broke. There was the poor and broke but make it look good. There was the educated. There was the we getting paper on the low, living like the Brady Bunch. And it was all sorts of people. And I'm talking about families range from multiple generations inside the dwelling. Oh yeah, Cutting. You could do it like that back then. Back then, you would have multiple generations living inside the dwelling without any incident. But this is a more pure time in Port Arthur before the crack epidemic hit and the hunt was on. You see what I'm saying? So during this time, children could go outside and play. They didn't really have to worry about too much. Adults would consume Miller Lite and pink champagne. Now they smoked the hell out of some cigarettes. I ain't gonna bullshit you now. They smoked the hell out of some cigarettes. They needed them a pack of squares. I'm talking about every other day. And somehow back then, little children could go to the store and say, my mama say, she want Coca-Cola and a pack of Virginia Slims in the gold pack. You did? Or the Virginia Slims in the green pack. Or the Benson and Hedges. Yeah, the Benson and Hedges. You dig? I don't even know what the hell that is. All I know is my mama said she want a pack of them Benson and Hedges in Coca-Cola. Yeah. And I think her and my stepdaddy maybe share cigarettes. I think I even smoked one. I was about 4 or 5 years. Nah, but yeah, so it was more of a simpler time back then. But then we moved a little further up. We moved in the 2600 block of Thomas Boulevard in a small town called Port Arthur that later would turn up. But we're not talking about the turn up. We're talking about the turn down before the turn up. We lived in the 2600 block of Thomas Boulevard that would almost be mid-town of Port Arthur. It would be midways from the west side and midways from the east side. And it was not actually a hood at the time. It was a neighborhood that consisted of the poor and broke. The poor and broke that knew how to make it look good, and the middle class, and again, multiple generations living under one dwelling. You understand? You follow? And during this time, in its humble years, this would be the early 80s, Port Arthur was more safe. A child could wander from midtown all the way to the west side on foot. walking multiple blocks by himself, on foot, unscathed, unharmed. Or a child could migrate from Midtown to Deep East on foot. Same circumstance, unscathed, unharmed, and safe. But there was a transit system called PAT. It had the Port Arthur Transit System, but they had a PAT written on the big bus that was barking out a whole bunch of black smoke. Yeah, describe that shit. Break it down to a T form, He's. It was barking out and barfing out a that big bit probably needed a carburetor, but that big bit was going, huh? And that big bitch will be coasting. That big bitch will be coasting. Now, I always wondered, even as a little child, why the city bus ain't never had seatbelt. I don't know. Don't make me know, never mind. I just wonder. Because you had to hold on to a pole. You had to hold on to a pole, but ain't have no seatbelt. And the seats was kind of slippery. And you'd see the older ladies holding their purse and their handbook with their stockings soggy in a hole, dropping down towards their ankles. And their ankles would look like cankles because they would be a little swollen. But that's either here nor there, and that ain't got nothing to do with nothing. Let's keep on going with the story. So children were able to get together a couple cents, 35 cents, I don't remember, don't make me know, never mind, 50 cents, 75 cents, and they could ride the city bus up and down. I'm talking about all over town, get dropped off in strange places, scratch up another 35 to 50 to 75 cents, hop back on the bus and make it back to the home front safe, unscathed, unharmed. This was a more simpler time in Port Arthur, Texas. Also during this time, it appeared that businesses were thriving. My mother used to shop downtown Port Arthur, which was, how could I say, brightly lit in the night. And in the day, it also was brightly lit with all kind of different businesses and clubs and pharmacies and clothing stores and anything you could name. Sabine Hotel had been closed down. Yeah, don't get me to sitting up here lying. I remember staying at the Sabine Hotel on the 4th floor, lying like a mother. I don't ever remember it. In my day and age, I could never remember that big building being open. Now, maybe if I could talk to one of my brothers or my uncles or my cousins or something of that nature, they can tell me a memory about the Sabine Hotel being open for business. But during my era and during my time, businesses like Crest. Oh yeah, I said Crest. Crest was basically CVS. Can you dig it? Let's go. Crest was basically Walgreens. Yeah. And then they had 2 stores next to Crest. One was called Soul Man. And the other one was called Super Bad. I'm super bad. I don't know. I'm super bad. I don't know. And I'm a soul man. Boom, 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 boom. I'm a soul man. Boom, 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 boom. And I'm super bad. I just took you niggas back to the 70s. Let's go. Now, so when we over there at Super Bad or Soul Man, I wind up learning that the people who owned their business, they was like Arabian or something. Shout out to my homie. He know who he is. He later on got their business from his family after they got too old, and he been running a clothing store, suit store. I'm talking about dressing boys up ever since the 70s. He was groomed for that shit as a little child. He used to, this how crazy it is. It was a beautiful time in Port Arthur. I remember going in Super Bad or Soul Man shopping with my mama, and I'd see a little boy. He'd be about the same height almost, a little smaller than me, had old big old green eyes, and he'd be peeping by the coat rack. He be peeping by the coat rack, but I remembered his eyes. I remembered his eyes, and later on in life, we became good friends. Did a lot of business together. He had the suit store in Jefferson Shopping Center that was called Colors, 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 Colors. Armored Knight, Male Stalking, Psychopath Walking, King of the Jungle, all of those shit. But yes, hey man, back to the story, because what we're talking about is before the epidemic hit our city. Port Arthur was vibrant back then. Most of our parents worked at the refinery, or they was school teachers, or preachers, or some kind of teacher, or electrician, or carpenter, or plumber. They were blue-collar people. Some of our parents was well educated, and they preached Black empowerment and educating yourself and going to college. I didn't get that. I'm sorry, unfortunately. Unfortunately, my mom taught me how to survive and hustle. I'm sorry. My mom was a hustler. Now, don't get me wrong. She had all kind of degrees. She had all kind of degrees up under her belt. But by the time she got to raising us, it was just, boy, just stay out of trouble and survive, motherfucker. Stay out of trouble and survive, you dig, motherfucker. But yeah, man. So back then, everything was real, period. People still went across what we call the pier. It's a big old bridge that leads you over to something called Pleasure Island. And on Pleasure Island, you could find families having volleyball games, having picnic, grilling, drinking beer in peace and harmony. You understand? You follow? This was a time when the city was more of a community. You knew Mrs. Such and Such, and you respected Mr. Such and Such. The adults were not afraid of the children. The adults did not have an inkling to think, I will not reprimand this child. The adults would reprimand a child for acting disinfectful. The adults would spank your little ass at school. At school, adults would put some pap on your ass. But again, across that bridge was Pleasure Island. Now, the poor and broke ain't know they had a bunch of rich motherfuckers over there with boats and all kind of shit going hammer. I'm talking about having a good time. But that ain't got nothing to do with us, because we was over there on that grass, and they was out there fishing and all sorts of things. But we was over there on that grass playing on the jungle gyms and barbecuing and drinking and having a good time. I wasn't drinking. I was just a little child. I was drinking jungle juice or Sunny D. Yeah, we used to drink that Sunny D, or we drank that damn punch by the gallon jug. You got to have that punch by the gallon jug. You have a few of them when you got a bunch of kids. Or you get that parade soda. Now, you really living when you got that parade soda, boy. Ain't nothing like that parade soda in your grandma tea cake. Come on, boy. Ain't nothing like that parade soda in your grandma tea cake. And most of the community was raised in church. Everybody attended church on Sunday. This was a more innocent time in Port Arthur. The baseball fields in Port Arthur would be filled with the adults and the children. Again, grilling, barbecuing, having picnic, playing softball. Now, don't get me wrong, it be some rough talk and some arguing and some curls flicking with activator juice, with whirls of curls juice flicking everywhere. And the men's used to wear nut hugger shorts in the tank. They wore pussy cutter in the tank. They wore short shorts. They wore short shorts and polo shirts. They may have not said polo, but they had the collar and the 3 buttons. You follow? and they kept them a pocket knife. Now, the pocket knife wasn't to protect themselves from any harm's way. You never know when you needed to cut some wire or cut some kite string. We also used to go to the seawall and fly kite, or we go to the park and fly kite. This was a time when the 99-cent movie was in effect, and your parents can drop you off to the 99-cent movie, and you could see one film, and if you were smart enough, you could sneak into another and just sit down, and when they ask you a question, you play dumb. My mama say, I watch a movie, huh? You play dumb and you get you a 2-for-1. Or if you like me, you can get dropped off early on that 99-cent and a couple dollars for some popcorn and a soda water. And you can do some begging. You can do a little begging. You can see some adults and look up at them with your puppy dog eyes. And you be like, my mama say she only gave me a couple dollars to watch a movie. You buy me a candy bar. You know what I'm saying? You buy me a candy bar. Yeah, and they normally in the arms of the angel. They buy you a big old candy bar and a drink. They buy you a big old candy bar and a drink and send you on about your way. And you take your dumb raggedy ass in the next theater and sneak you another movie. And you get snug as a bug in your seat and you go eating your candy bar and drink your drink, looking up at that movie like you belong in there and you never get kicked out. But this was a more simpler time in Port Arthur. A simpler time when you could go to what we call behind the dorm. It was a drive-in theater. It was called Behind the Dawn. If you ever want to know where it's at, you ask where the dawn at, and that's where it was. It was behind the dawn, motherfucker. Let's go. Yeah, so you go behind the dawn or whatever, and you got these big old white sheets. No, I don't know, big old screens. I don't know, big old walls. I don't know what it was, but it was very big, and they projectile a movie up on that thing. And I think you had to pay by the car. You used to have to pay by the car. And we had a station wagon. Excuse me. So I remember when my mama say, y'all get in the back of the station wagon, back there by the cooler with the Coca-Colas and the fried chicken. Oh yeah, cutting. Y'all get back there by the cooler with the Coca-Colas and the fried chicken and the cooler. And y'all put that blanket over y'all head. We're going to play hide and seek. And you come from up under the blanket to my, mama, I don't want, motherfucker, get back under that. Then you get back under that cover wondering when it's time to come up. But then you hear your mama negotiating at the drive-in movie, and the lady like, thank you for coming for the Behind the Dawn. How many people in the car? And my mama just be like, shit, just me and my husband. And that lady be like, well, what is them covers moving? Bitch, that's the wind. Don't be worrying about what's back there. So she pay and get in. And we still wondering when to come from behind the cover. We didn't stay up under the cover so long, shit. We didn't fell asleep. We didn't stay up under the cover so long. When company come, we didn't fell asleep. She got to put some pap. Wake y'all bitch ass up, huh? And then we look up, there it is, big old ass movie screen. And they give you this big old ass hunk of junk, look like a goddamn gray box. Big old ass, heavy ass gray box. And you roll your window down a little bit and you clunk that motherfucker inside your window. Clunk, you know what I mean? And that bitch come on and you hear the movie and you see the screen. And as you sitting there enjoying the movie, hearing it, you go ahead and get you a piece of chicken. Because your mama fried y'all some chicken. And the fries too. She fried y'all some chicken and some, you got chicken and fries and coat to coat. And punch. You got to have that big old jug of juice. I ain't gonna bullshit you. You ain't going nowhere without that. That big jug of juice is a motherfucker with them styrofoam cup, or them red cup, or them blue cup, with that big old jug. Shit, nigga. Y'all in that station wagon, I'm talking about going hammer in that bitch. I'm talking about partying and have a good. I'm talking about having a good time. But this was a more simpler time than Port Arthur, when the community was still a community, when the adults were not afraid of the children, when the uncles were uncles, when the aunts were aunts. I ain't talking about aunts that get on you and bite you. I'm talking about aunties. Some people call aunties nanas. I ain't never called none of my aunties nanas. I always call them aunt such and such, or auntie. But this was just part one of before the crack epidemic hit Port Arthur. I hope y'all enjoyed the rundown, you know what I'm saying, through memory lane. I wasn't here for a long time, but I was here for a good time. Hey, man, thank you for coming to the Trillcast, man. It is what it is. It's going to be what it's going to be. I'm trying to stay away from different things. And, man, you know, man, you got to, hey, man, you know what I'm saying, perpetuate at the same time, outgrow at the same time. You know what I'm saying? Bring what's down through there with some education and some information. You know what I mean? But thank you for coming through. Share the video. A more simpler time in my city, Port Arthur.